It is virtually impossible to drive through northern Illinois and southern Wisconsin without seeing a colorful barn quilt adorning an old farm building. The history of the barn quilt dates back approximately 300 years. When immigrants settled in Pennsylvania, it is believed they were some of the first to begin painting or quilting on barns. It spread quickly across New England and into the Midwest, where it is still a popular folk art form of decoration today. These barn quilts held personal family meeting using colors and patterns from their cultural backgrounds. They were also a way to distinguish your farm and became a bit of a landmark or a road sign for travelers. During the 1830s and 40s, trained artisans began painting barns as a trade. Many patterns became named as the popularity of the barn quilts grew. They reached their peak at the beginning of the 20th century and then lost their momentum as more people sold their barn space to paid advertisers such as Red Man Chewing Tobacco. In 2001, a woman named Donna Sue Groves brought the traditional barn quilts back into mainstream. She had been inspired by her mother, who was an avid quilter, and promised her that someday she would paint a beautiful quilt on the side of their ugly tobacco barn. Donna was also responsible for creating the Trail of Quilts in Adams County, Ohio. She hoped it would bring in tourists and give an economic boost to her community. The barn quilts have since become a rural staple for many operating farms and can be seen on any kind of building from garages to sheds. I chose to create a barn quilt for the Globalization and Me project for several reasons. During my undergrad at Northern Illinois University, I created a wooden quilt in a sculpture class. I was inspired by my grandmother, who sewed and quilted. I grew up wearing her handmade dresses, summer outfits, and even undershirts. She made me my own quilt when I was 22, with fabric and pattern that I had picked out with her help. After she passed away in 2001, I made the wooden quilt with the help of my grandfather, which was her husband, as a memorial and in remembrance of her. I never learned how to sew, but I did still hold a passion for creating, so I did so with my own choice of media. This barn quilt is a culmination of both the wooden quilt and my grandmother's quilt. When completed, it will hang on the machine shed at my parents' house until I have room to hang it up at my own place. The finished size is 4 by 4 foot plywood that's been finished and primed with a waterproof primer on both sides and the edges. Then I measured the pattern and began painting. I tried to keep it exactly like the wooden quilt pattern with the addition of a few triangles. I kept it at a bright color palette, which was also an exterior latex satin paint.